Diaries of a Madman. Written by What Must I Do? Chapter 7. Mailmares, Dancing, and Cutie Marks. Part 1. None of the ponies in Ponyville commented on my new wings, aside from Twilight and her friends. Apparently most ponies just sort of do their best to look around me when they see them. Not rude, of course, but not polite either. They knew I wasn't of their world, and they didn't want anything to do with me. And at least they weren't dicks about it, and were actually willing to talk to me if I asked them something. And, as it turned out, Rarity was able to modify my clothing so that it would fit my wings. Twilight had to actually ask her to come by the library after I managed to come up with several excuses to avoid her shop. And it was a shock to find her rummaging around in my clothing when I got back, from wandering around the area outside of town. I was turning on my heel to head back out when she looked up.
Nav, wait!
Yeah, I wasn't about to wait for shit. The only thing that stopped me was her magic tugging on my wings. I tried to continue walking anyway, but fuck, wings are annoying.
Will you at least look at me?
And what would I see? A rapist? I think I'll pass.
Anger or not, I will attempt to make amends until you can forgive me. I shall start by amending your clothing to match your new additions.
I didn't reply, and after waiting in silence for a few seconds, she released me. Out the door I went without looking back. On an unrelated note, the forced vegetarian diet I was on was getting on my nerves. Yes, it's pretty healthy. And yes, the ponies have some excellent cooks that know how to do some wonderful things with plants and tofu. But I was really craving a steak, or some beef jerky, or just anything, really. With that in mind and Rarity in my dresser, I grabbed my crossbow. I was getting much better with it, now that I actually had a chance to do some practicing, and started off towards the forest that all the ponies seemed to fear. Now, I'm not a professional hunter or anything, but I have killed deer in the past. I've also seen them skinned, though I've never done it myself. But I was hungry, damn it, and a cookout sounded good. Fluttershy lived close enough to the woods that I could borrow some fire-making devices from her to start a blaze to cook whatever I killed on. What's the worst that could happen? 2 hours later, I was really thinking about changing my policy on ideas that I preface with, what's the worst that could happen? Manticores absolutely do not like people encroaching on their hunting grounds. Coincidentally, I found out why all the ponies are afraid of the forest. There are some really terrible things living there. I saw all manners of nasties that I almost shot, but then tried to imagine myself eating them, and said fuck it. Where was I? Oh, yes, getting chased by a pissed off manticore. I don't suggest it. They are very fast. The only thing that saved me was the fact that we were in a forest so it couldn't go full tilt after me. Despite that, there were way too many close calls for my liking. Several trees I ducked around were destroyed with very sharp claws, and occasionally some manner of animal instinct caused me to suddenly jump ahead, only to hear a short pounce and a very annoyed cat-like yowl right behind me. It was discomforting, to say the least. At that point, I don't even know where I was trying to go. I was just running like crazy through all manner of odd environments. There are a few openings full of flowers that I avoided, not wanting to give the critters any kind of advantage on level terrain. I saw a mountain stretching in the distance at one point, but I did my best to keep away from it. Wings wouldn't do me any good against something that was born with its own set. There was even a swamp peeking through the trees at one point, and I turned away from almost immediately. A swamp wouldn't do either of us any good. Knowing that most animals in this place are at least sentient, if unable to talk, I tried reasoning with the fellow as I ran. This is all just a misunderstanding. I'm just an explorer. Why are you trying to attack me? The only response I got was a very agitated roar. Man, maybe I should have just shot this bastard. I decided then to do just that whenever I got the chance. A chance that came sooner than I expected. The thought had barely left my mind when I hit the edge of the forest. I sprinted on a few more meters and almost tripped. I was so used to jumping over roots and whatnot that when no more came, I was surprised. I knew I had seconds to react, so I did my best to load the crossbow as fast as I could and bring it to bear. I just barely managed to get it aimed, just in time for a very loud
No!
to disturb my aim and send the bolt skittering through the forest. If the manticore also hadn't been stopped by that cry, I would have been completely boned. As it was, I managed to force my weary legs to jump high enough for my wings to take effect, and tried to get as far away as possible from that bastard before I looked to see who was almost got me killed. Of course, it would be Fluttershy. That chick likes animals way too much. Any reason you're trying to get me killed? I yelled down at her. Instead of answering me, she flew over to the manticore and said some words to him. He sent a very rage-filled glance my way, snorted out a loud harumph, and stalked back into the forest. I gingerly landed on my weak legs and waited for some manner of explanation.
We know each other.
Fluttershy said with a small smile.
What were you doing in the forest anyway?
That was said with a look at my crossbow. Exploring. That place is not fun. I don't suggest it as a vacation spot.
You know, most of the paths are pretty safe. Zecora has some kind of agreement with some of the animals there to keep off the roads.
Apparently that doesn't apply to that manticore. He was on a road when I ran into him.
Yeah, her agreement doesn't hold with everything there. But if you do go back in there, try not to lead any of the animals too far out. We all prefer them in the woods.
I was about to attempt to kill this one when you interrupted my shot. If nothing else, I would have given him a scar to tell stories about.
That wouldn't have been a good idea,
She quietly said, looking back to the forest. I'd rather go down with a fight than go down begging. At least if I hit it in the eye, I would have had a Pyrrhic victory on him.
That doesn't seem like a good idea. Wouldn't it be better to try to befriend him?
As far as I'm concerned, by the time you're running for your life, it's too late to become friends. Especially since he disregarded my attempt at peacemaking.
Maybe he was just hungry.
That wouldn't make me feel any better about getting eaten.
Well, every pony needs to eat.
If you're really worried about his eating habits, a pony would make a better male than a human.
Oh no, he likes me too much to eat me.
Shame. I wouldn't mind asking him to carve off a flank for me on the side.
You wouldn't eat a pony?
Yeah, he probably wouldn't share. I honestly don't know if she could tell if I was joking or not. I don't know if I was either. I've heard a lot of good things about horse meat, but I don't know if that would transfer here. Besides, eating a friend would be awkward, and explaining that to Twilight would be hard. After a few seconds of thought, she apparently decided I was actually joking.
Were you planning on going back into the forest? I was going to visit Zecora and wouldn't mind the company.
Sure, I suppose. I didn't particularly want to go back into that hellhole, but there was a good chance Rarity was still mulling over my clothing, and Fluttershy really didn't like going into those woods alone. For good reason. Besides, it's not like I had anything else to do. I cocked the crossbow again, just in case, and we set off into the forest. While we were walking, I tried dabbing at some of the cuts I took across my body in my mad dash through the trees. Despite the chill, I still wasn't wearing a shirt, and you run into all manner of nasty things out there when you aren't paying too much attention to where you're going. I was bleeding in several places across my chest, and my arms were really messed up. My legs fared a little better, but I could feel blood crusting in my leg hair. It was pretty nasty, but it wouldn't be enough to slow me down. I heal fast, and I've never gotten any infections. Still, I made a mental note to ask Zecora for some manner of healing poultice, or at least a bucket of water to wash the crust off. I wasn't entirely reassured by Fluttershy's insistence that the roads were safe, so I found myself jumping at any sound in the woods around us, dropping the conversation in my attempts to clean myself to aim at it and try to determine what it was. After that happened a few times, Fluttershy politely and very hesitantly asked me to knock it off, though not using those words. I relaxed a little. Our conversation was fairly routine, just past experiences, stuff she had done with her animals and her friends, with me attempting to find any of my past experiences to add to hers, and she would approve of. That list was relatively short, since I fucking hated animals. Being an unwilling farmer gives you irrational hate for some things. Then she started asking about my week as a pony.
How was your dancing lesson with Pinkie Pie?
Which one? legal or not, was my first thought, knowing what she meant. Though I said, the showgirl outfit was unexpected. Why does she even have something like that?
She still has that? She got it from a place called Appaloosa a little while ago, while we were visiting some of Applejack's family. She used it in a strange dance number there.
I can certainly see why that would be strange. I muttered. I don't know if Fluttershy heard me, but I thought I saw her smile.
Was she a good teacher at least?
Surprisingly, yes. I didn't think she could be serious long enough, but she somehow managed. She also made it somewhat fun, which I also didn't think was possible. I was never much of a fan of dancing, back when I had to learn. I'm not the best at it, mind, and it's still not my preferred hobby. But I'm better able to tolerate now. Why? Thinking about learning yourself?
Oh no, I'm much too uncoordinated for that.
You were a model for weeks because of how graceful you were.
I also don't have a partner.
That was almost whispered. Yeah, I could see that being a bit of a problem, but I'm sure Pinkie Pie could teach you anyway, as a lead. She looked down and said,
Probably.
Thinking back, nah, it's Fluttershy. Why would she be interested in me? The rest of the walk to Zecora's passed with a little incident, though I did almost shoot a squirrel when it jumped out on the path. As soon as it saw me, the poor bastard squealed and dashed back into the forest. And at least I didn't waste a bolt.
Hello, Fluttershy Navarone. What brings you to my humble home? It appears you are covered in dings. Oh my, and when did you grow those wings?
That lust directed at me, I hope. A week or so ago, I replied. Think you can do anything about them, aside from chopping them off?
Cutting them is all I could do. You would not want that, would you?
I was actually seriously considering it, honestly. Those damn things jutting on my back had been nothing but a fucking pain ever since they showed up. Leaning back was hard, sleeping on my back was impossible, and flying wasn't something I really cared to do anyway. However, Fluttershy saw the look on my face and took it upon herself to comment.
No, Nav, you can't do that. It's just awful.
Better gone than giving me pain, but whatever. We're not actually here for that. I'm just along for the walk. Feel free to talk to her, Fluttershy. She didn't seem so willing to drop the point, but she always was the meek one, so instead of pressing it, she turned to Zecora. It was made rather quickly apparent, politely, of course, that my presence was not wanted. No one said I had to leave, of course, but I thought it best if I just looked outside. I excused myself, thinking about hiding in the woods and stalking Fluttershy on the way back to spook her. I decided not to, of course, but the thought was there. Zecora had given me a bucket of water and a washcloth to clean the blood off with, and I was doing just that when I heard a rustle near the edge of the woods. Before my mind could fully comprehend what it was doing, I was aiming at the sound with my finger on the trigger. At that point, I was very glad of some minor modifications I had done to the crossbow, including a set of iron sights to make sure I know where to aim it, and a guard to make sure the bolt goes in and out only when I want it to. Good thing I automatically aimed too. It was a cockatrice. However, it did not seem to be the one that was hostile. It was actually coming out with its arms, I guess, held up. The thing even had its eyes closed. I backed up to the house, keeping my eye on the critter, and hammered the door with my elbow. Fluttershy, I found a friend of yours. I wish I could say they came out to see a Mexican standoff going down, but in reality it was more of me pointing a crossbow at something that obviously didn't want to defend itself.
What's going on?
Fluttershy asked before seeing the cockatrice. Don't know. I reckon your buddy there wants some kind of help or something. I vote we tell it to fuck off. Or let me shoot it.
He might have a hurt friend, though. We can't just let it suffer.
Why not? Look, it's getting dark and we still have to get out of the woods. Do you really want to be wandering around this place in the dark?
If it means helping an animal, I will. And if you're too afraid to go with me, then I'll go alone.
Like hell you will. I think you're a fool for it, But let it never be said I don't stick my neck out for friends. Probably makes me a fool too, though. Do nice for your own damn good. Zecora, who had been silent up to that point, said,
It is dark out here in the night. Allow me to bring you a light.
With that, she walked back into her hut and brought out what looked like some glow sticks or something. While you're bringing out party supplies, you got any ecstasy stored in there? I asked. I wouldn't mind dropping some E while wandering around here. She didn't know what to say to that, so I dropped it. With that, though, we were off wandering off the path through some godforsaken woods. Oh, Navarone. Of course he would go into the Everfree Forest and almost immediately die to a manticore. Thank God Fluttershy was there, which I always find hilarious. It is one of my favorite tropes in fanfiction where Fluttershy has control of all the large animals. It is cute and adorable, and thank God Fluttershy is the only one that seems to be relatively normal in this fic. However, who else are relatively normal? The only thing they're not normal of is how much I love them, are my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, my tier 1s, Chase Lemaster, Jason, Squall, Windfeather, Lunar Gaze, 8th Day of Night, Starlight Blaze, Hyperlink, Night Game, Rain Flicker, Redeemer of Dark, and Dreamless Portal. My tier 2s, Captain Blue Shadow, The Animated Ghost, HKH4, aka Texture, Sword Brother and Mordred, Nocturne, DJMX 2000, Papa Lennon, and Can Panzer. And of course a large thank you to my Titan tiers and a brand new one, Danish Dash. I appreciate your support so much, friend. And of course a large thank you to the other ones, Dark Guardian, Maverick, and Silent Titan. I appreciate your guys' support so much and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.